All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another fabulous edition of the professional interview series. Today we have Julie Eggleston, um, hailing out of Western Illinois University. How you doing, Julie?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for inviting me to do this. I'm really excited.
No, absolutely. I know we know each other from a while back, but when I was thinking about who else I could rope into this, you were one of the first people I thought of. So, well, I think part of it is because you're a very positive person, and I like positive people too. So, uh, but anyway, so beyond how are you doing today? How are things?
Things are great. We are wrapping up our end of our semester. And so our finals are next week. And then with that, I get to kind of switch gears a little bit and start running full-time day camp and programs through my other job
Good.
as a program supervisor for McDonough County Special Recreation Association. So I do two things. I think it's really important to keep my feet in the field,
Hmm.
and it was actually my mission when I took the teaching position to be able to have this opportunity to teach my students about therapeutic recreation and teaching them the reality of how to do it in the field by getting them to work the programs. And so far this year, even with everything that's been all wild, it's going great. So, so it's been fun.
So, just to kind of to let everybody know, so tell us what you do at Western Illinois and what courses you teach.
Okay. So I work through the Recreation Park and Tourism Administration Department, the RPTA department. And I teach therapeutic recreation. So I teach all of their core courses. So that's six core courses through the year. And that helps prepare my students who are interested in therapeutic recreation to then go to their internship. And it's a specialized internship that through NCTRC, it's the National Certification Organization, they have these standards that require for the TR students to then receive an internship through an agency that has a supervisor that has a CTRS as well as a faculty member that has a CTRS. So their internship is longer than what a typical internship is. It's 14 weeks instead of 12 weeks. And it's very specific in making sure the students are receiving the knowledge fields of the tasks and the job duties and different things like that that NCTRC requires. Then when they're done and very successful in their internship, then they can qualify to sit for the national test to receive their certification. So
It,
I get to do that.
yeah.
I also, which I love those are really fun, and that is my drive. But I have discovered that I also get to teach the intro courses, which some people are like, they're so boring. But I love them
Yeah.
because in the 112 class, which is the intro to leisure class, I get such a cool mix of students. I either get the freshmen who have no idea what leisure is all about or what park and rec is all about or anything, or I get the senior who's literally taking this as their last course before they're, graduating. But all in all, I really get them to kind of communicate together. And at the end of the semester, I kind of make them do this activity where they state what they've learned, what they want to continue. And they all have said they never realized how important leisure and recreation is in their lives. And to me, that is like, I don't know, opening the door to them. And it's
Yeah.
really cool to see that. So
Yeah.
I like those two.
No, absolutely. And then you work, so you kind of briefly touched on it. You work with the Special Recreation Association for McDonough County.
I do. So it's run through the Macomb Park District. And I had approached Rachel Lenz, who's also alumni of our PTA and has her CTRS. It was, June. We had moved here right before COVID hit, February. And then in June, I said, okay, let me fill you in on my master plan.
Yeah.
I really want to do this, teach programs, and, to be able to work with the population for people with disabilities. And I want to be able to do this and connect our students to get some fieldwork experience, because that's a requirement in all of my core courses is
Mhm.
they have to have all combined a minimum of 150 hours before they graduate. So this is easy to me. Uh, so she was like, right on, let's do it. And so literally that's what we did. So I started doing that in August. And with COVID, just kind of, as everybody goes, you have to have a plan B. And so
Sure.
we've done everything virtual. And even though Special Olympics isn't running right now, we're still offering sports skill programs to really try to keep them going, fitness programs, really connecting with them that way. And then the other ones that my students are really connected with is a socialization program, because a lot of people with disabilities during COVID, they have suffered from isolation because they're being told don't go near anyone and
Right.
don't go out of your house. And so depression and mental health has just skyrocketed. So with all of those skills we've been able to teach my students, that has really helped them not only buff up their resume, but really help our community and to be able to help our participants do well with their lives. And let's see. Then this semester was a new one. We ran the Adaptive PE Motor Clinic virtually.
Hmm.
So usually all the special ed kids from the co-op, they're bussed in to Brophy Gym, and we see them face to face and we work with them at the gym and the pool. Well, because of COVID, that couldn't happen. And so Dr. Cindy Paletic, who runs the clinic, and we've been collaborating with the clinic for about 2 years now since I've been there. um, we just started talking about, well, how do we run programs? I said, we do it virtually. See if we can do virtual programs into the classrooms.
Yeah.
And so we just swapped it. We're doing virtual adaptive PE programs into their classrooms. And it just was such a great hit. It just went really, really well.
Awesome.
So a lot of fun stuff. A
It's,
lot of fun
you
stuff.
got several hats and a lot of juggling going on, it sounds like. Um,
Yes. Used to it though.
right. I think that's every recreation person in some way, you know. Um,
Hmm.
so, we're gonna hop in the time machine a little bit and go back in time, right? Go back to the past, not back to the
Okay.
future. But
How
um,
long?
yeah.
How
So,
long back?
where are you originally from? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Peoria, Illinois, which is from Macomb area, about an hour and a half away. And I have six sisters, so I'm one of seven girls. It was a
Goodness.
very loud, rowdy house. We were known as the Johnson girls who hung out with the Dillon boys, and they were loud and rowdy. And so it was just a really fun time. But we grew up in a house of helping people. So my dad was an HR director of the hospital in Peoria. My mom was a special ed teacher. And as we grew up, volunteering and serving our community just was second nature to us. And so working with people, that's just literally what we have all grown into doing. All of my sisters are teachers or volunteer organization organizers, coordinators, social workers. Um, Kathy's a graphic designer, which we're not sure how that all happened. But we all say that she like received the created genius gene from all of us combined, because she's so creative and has such a great imagination. So we go to her whenever we need logos for our organizations
Yeah, sure.
and help with branding and all of that. But so grew up and did that, and then um, was not sure what I wanted to do when I was in high school, and decided I needed to do college. because everybody else in my family went straight to college out of high school, right? It was awful. It was awful. I went to Southern, and at the
So
time,
Southern Illinois
I,
University,
yep, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale,
Carbondale. Okay.
and decided I was going to be an English teacher.
All right.
Bill Shakespeare and I did not get along very well, and so I was asked to leave before I was really asked to leave. I did not do well. So I went home and literally worked 4 jobs trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And one of those jobs, just by coincidence, was I became a residential manager for a mental health center in Peoria. And so I assisted running a house for adults that had chronic mental health issues. And so, because of my 4 jobs, I had these really weird hours. It was like Friday from 2 to 10, and then I'd go home, and then I'd work from 6 in the morning to 10 at night on Saturday. And then I'd go home, and then I'd come back and I would work 10 at night on Sunday to 6 in the morning on Monday. And
Good deal.
so during that time, weekends, there's nothing to do for everybody. And they all started kind of picking on each other because there was nothing to do. They had no structure. And then, they're being naughty and chairs were being thrown through windows. And I just went, okay, time out. Let's figure out we need to do something constructive. So I created programs for them.
Okay.
And within
So that's kind
a
of where it all
month,
started.
that's where it all started.
All right.
Yeah. Within a month, my boss was like, what are you doing? Because all these residents are saying, Julie is having us do this movie night, and this is what we're doing, and it's so fun. And behaviors were going down, and the clinicians are just like, oh my gosh, attitudes are better. And so I kind of went, what am I doing? I was doing it basically because I was bored. If I was bored, they were going to be bored. So I really kind of looked into it, and I'm like, gosh, we're providing programming. Okay, cool. And then what really was my aha light bulb moment, my friend Val, who was running a therapeutic horseback riding program in Farmington, which was 20 minutes away from where I used to live, um, she called me and said, we have this guy who's just so angry, and he's hitting all the volunteers, and he's hitting the horse, and we can't let him continue. But I really want to help him. How can you come out and help me help him? And I said, absolutely. Because I knew the mental health part, I knew horses part, and that's how we knew each other.
Hmm.
And it was like the second I stepped into that ring, I was home. I
Yeah.
just knew what I wanted to do. So I literally that night went home and said, I need to go back to school, and looked up therapeutic recreation. At the time, I lived in the middle of Illinois State University in Bloomington and Western Illinois University in Macomb.
Uh-huh.
And I called up both of their advisors, and Holly called me back and said, just instead of me talking to you on the phone, just come and visit, and
Yeah.
you can meet all the faculty. And literally the second I was on the hallway, I felt like I was just accepted and at home, and started that next fall.
Yeah.
So, and have loved it ever since. I went from almost flunking out to being on the dean's list after the first semester and just never looked back.
Yeah. When you find your place, you blossom, right? That's
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hmm.
so. You got through the undergraduate program. Um, Once you were nearing your time there, what were you thinking? What were your next steps?
So when I graduated undergrad and I did my internship in Fort Wayne, and then we had Sam. So Sam was born literally 5 months after my internship. So that was a fun experience, running a summer camp pregnant. But it was so fun. It was like he's just born into this recreation world,
Right.
right? Just normal. So, took my CTRS exam and passed the first time. And as somebody who has major test anxiety, that was a tough one. So I totally understand my students when they talk to me about that.
Yeah.
And I'll never let that lapse because I never want to take that exam ever again. Um, it was a tough one, but it's worth it. I really looked at it as this is my next step to not only receive that certification, but also quantify my knowledge in the field and my right to be doing what we're doing, being able to lift myself up to that high standard.
Sure.
So then I went and worked in the field, went back to the mental health center that I used to work for and ran their psychosocial rehab groups for a while. And then I approached a special recreation in East Peoria, Illinois River Valley SRA. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're running some programs and, doing some Special Olympics here and there. And I said, well, this is really what I want to do. So how about I restart your program for you and give me 6 months and then, we'll see where we are. And so that was the deal. And so after 6 months, they said, we know you're working way more than 25 hours a week
Yeah.
because you want to get this going and you've blossomed it and let's get it going. So that was my first real therapeutic rec job, I would say.
Yeah.
And did that for a while until Dr. Atkins, who was the chair of our PTA, calls me up December 22nd. Why do we remember these like specific
Yeah.
things when our lives have changed,
Right.
And he's like, oh, Merry Christmas, Miss Julie. And how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, we're watching The Grinch. How are you doing? And
Yeah.
we just had a good conversation. And he said, we want you to come back and do your grad degree and get your master's. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. I have a now 5-year-old and, a 4-year-old at the time. And I'm just starting this great job. And this is, I just started kind of getting my feet on the ground. And it was a fantastic opportunity. And I'm
Hmm.
so glad I took that leap of faith. And I think if it were anybody else but him, I probably would have said no way. But I trust him that much with the knowledge of this will be a good step for you.
Yeah.
So I did it. So, and then that's how you and I met,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So I think you took a bigger leap of faith than I did. You moved.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so so as Dr. Atkins, who, you know, I adore tremendously, and we can talk
Hmm.
more about that at any time, I guess. But so what was something that made you make that next step or take that leap of faith? And, was there something going on, or did he just like con you into it? Like what? So what happened?
All the above.
Yeah.
No, he actually had said part of my assistantship, and it would be, yes, he kind of conned me because the tuition would be free. And
Hmm.
so that was nice. That was a big deal because, married, you have those bills, right? And then offered a full assistantship to McDonough County SRA, the SRA that I now work for. So it's kind
Yeah.
of really weird, full circle, to start that SRA kind of going again because it
Yeah.
was floundering a little bit and it was really quiet for a while. And that needed to happen. And the connection to the university really needed to be strengthened. So I'm a challenge girl. When I see those challenges, I'm just like, oh, yeah, this could be so great. I don't think about how hard this is going to be. I think about how great this is going to be at the end. And then I went, oh my gosh, to get a great master's program. And I already knew all the professors still from my first time there. I'd kept in contact with everybody. And so I said yes. And so that's pretty much that started a wonderful journey. And I'm very glad I went through that very tough journey
Yeah.
because I believe without my master's, I definitely wouldn't be where I am now, or where I was when I was working in the field. I think having that master's degree just helped elevate me just that much more.
And then, and just to kind of go back a little bit, Dr. Dell Atkins, who is, funny enough, he has a connection to my previous institution. He went to Eastern Kentucky University to get his
Did he
master's.
really?
Yes. So, didn't know that till years later. But he had the connection there. He's originally from, I think, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
He
Uh,
just moved back there. They just
okay.
moved back there to get a little closer to their daughter, Hope.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so literally like within a month. And I miss him so much. He's such a wonderful mentor.
A tremendous spirit, positive soul, all those kinds of, all those attributes, right? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I was thinking about, like, while you were talking about, like, I remember when I was looking at master's degrees, or pursuing a master's degree, looking at programs, and I talked to a mentor of mine, Dr. Deb Jordan, who was at Oklahoma State during my undergrad. And one of many people I asked, and I just, I'm thinking about getting my master's. Do you have any recommendations? And she said, you need to go to Western Illinois University. You won't regret it. And if you go somewhere else, I'll give you a hard time. And, and
Thank you, Deb.
yeah. And I was like, I'd never, I mean, in all honesty, I'd never heard of Western Illinois up to that point. And so I looked into it and I was like, we'll see. I remember looking down online and looking at, like, Dr. Dan Yoder, McLean, Zorink, Degrino, on and on. And uh, I applied and got in and got an assistantship with campus recreation. And, I did. I moved up there sight unseen. I got Lemoyne Village was my first apartment. I don't even know if those are there anymore. They
They're
maybe should
closed
have been
down,
there when I was there,
thankfully.
right?
They're
But
thankfully closed down.
so it was a big leap of faith. But kind of like you is, I look back on my time. It was instrumental in a lot of things for me. But man, was it an incredible experience. So
Hmm.
I don't. It's not about me. It's about you. So we're gonna move on. But uh, I'm gonna say I echo a lot of what you said. So you get done with your master's degree. You have a great time, great professors. You're getting close to graduation. What's going through your head? What's the next step?
So then my next step was, what am I going to do? And to get this wonderful use out of this great opportunity, right? So where, and I always think about this. It's just so ironic that I've been full circle and I'm so happy to be back literally at a place, you know, 11 years before I was just like, I can't live here anymore.
Yeah,
But I think it's a very different life experience
sure.
that I'm living now for sure. So I received a dream job to run a therapeutic horseback riding center down in Godfrey, it just by Alton, so way down south of Illinois. And it was running a therapeutic horseback riding center for actually Beverly Farms, which was a campus that housed and fed, and I was in charge of the recreation part of it for 350 individuals that had disabilities.
Wow,
So they
that's a
lived
healthy number.
there. It's just a beautiful campus. It just was so beautiful. So they lived there. Some of them had lived there all their lives. This was earlier on, back in the 50s and the 60s, they actually had a nursery where when people had a baby that they didn't think that they could care for that had a disability, they would bring their baby to this nursery and surrender. And so there were several individuals that I worked with that had never lived anywhere else.
Wow,
And it was just an amazing experience.
sure.
So I had a staff of 11 people and 23 horses. A perk was for me to bring my two horses, my pony, and my mini donkey down. That was part of the deal. I said, I can't go anywhere without these guys. So And then just had a blast. It was so fun to do that and actually, work with my friend Vaughn, who she was retiring. That's how I found out about her position. And so we were able to make a great transition. But unfortunately, this was the Mayor Blagovich's era
Yeah.
and his wonderful decisions of not paying the state money that they're owed. And this was a state run and state funded facility. So they came to me after about 9 months of everything, and I just kept worrying because unfortunately, I know very, very well that when budget cuts have to happen, recreation or therapeutic recreation gets cut. And that's just usually the first thing to go. So they came to me and they said, we are owed $9.3 million by the state. We have to feed our people. We have to take care of our people. You have excess equity here. And so we ended up laying off 9 people and selling all but 4 horses and really cutting the program down.
Yeah.
So I saw the writing on the wall and started looking for another job.
Sure.
And that program is, in a sense, still kind of going, but not as serious as we were with it.
Yeah.
Then I received a wonderful opportunity to go to South Bend, Indiana, to work and run recreation programs for the Sanya Ansari Center for Autism. So I was specifically working just with families who had an individual in there as a family member who had autism.
Hmm.
And that, again, was the coolest experience because very rarely do you get to work with just one diagnosis.
Yeah.
And something as fascinating as autism is to me, because I see autism very differently in people. They have these one amazing skill or one super high intellectual skill
Yeah.
that just floors me, that I envy, because you'll have like somebody who may be nonverbal, they have no eye contact, but they are a phenomenal artist.
Yeah.
So to me, I've always been intrigued by that, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. So then after that, or during that, I had met a boy, Aaron.
Uh-oh. It's always the
And
downfall.
this is dang boys.
Mm.
Dang boys. And it took him about 7 months to convince me to move back to Illinois because I did not want to move back to Illinois. I
Yeah.
was extremely happy where I was. Sam was thriving and doing wonderful, but I decided, yes, we need to be around family, and it's a really great idea. And where he lived at the time was just outside of Aurora, so it's a suburb of Chicago. So wonderful opportunities for what I do there.
Hmm.
So moved and got married and had Miss Amy,
Right.
and it was very interesting leaving the state and in just 2.5 very short years coming back and nobody remembering in the SRA world kind of who you were. It was interesting because well, no, it'd be more longer. It would be almost 4 years because I
Okay.
did my grad school. So I contacted my mentor, Tracy Crawford, and I said, I'm moving back to Illinois. And she's like, finally, we need you here. She said, come work at Fox Valley SRA. We will hire you immediately. And I got hired sight unseen because she knew me and
Yeah.
she knew I knew what I knew, and started working inclusion and worked my way up to inclusion coordinator and loved it. Loved working for a larger SRA. Fox Valley SRA is located in Aurora, but they actually have 7 member park districts. So there's Geneva and St. Charles and South Elgin, Aurora, Sugar Grove. Shoot, who am I? Oh, she's gonna kill me. I can't remember the other one. Batavia. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. That's it.
You passed.
Um, but it was awesome to
Yeah.
see how inclusion works and works really, really well with all of these great park districts. And it was a phenomenal experience to learn about policies and to learn about different leadership roles, not only within the SRA, but as an inclusion person, I also got to go to the different park districts and talk to the different supervisors and help educate their staff about universal design and inclusion and adaptive equipment and why that's important. And it was great. It was great. Then the next step, um, let's see, 2013,
Mhm.
yes, director position for a wonderful small little SRA in DeKalb opened up. And so I went back to Tracy and I said, oh my gosh, Kishwaukee SRA, they have this executive director position open and it's small enough. I'm used to small. DeKalb is very interesting. They're rural yet urban in a lot of their different aspects. And I would love to apply. And she goes, I would hate to see you leave, but you need to go because you have the skills to do this. So again, pulling on my master's degree experience and everything, I went through all my papers and found the SWOT analysis project that I had and looked at everything because I knew that's what they would ask. And went after it
Yeah.
and received it. Was really excited about it and started that and took that from. They had three park district member agencies, so Sycamore, Genoa, and DeKalb, and it was really centered more in DeKalb and grew that for 4 years. We accepted two more park district agencies and we were really able to open up the revenue stream a little bit and help those two park district agencies, Sandwich and Flag Rochelle. They were able to walk them through the tax levy and how to do that, and just to be able to really expand the services in that area. I was so excited about. So during that time,
Well, I was
I
going to
actually
ask real
got a,
quick, where's
yeah.
for folks that may not know, where is DeKalb?
So, DeKalb, Illinois is the home of Northern Illinois University.
Okay,
And I would say it is about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of Chicago.
gotcha.
So it's not quite considered suburbs because anything outside of an hour, but it's pretty easy to get to.
Like on the way
So
to
from
like
Chicago.
Is it Rockford?
Yes,
Okay,
yep, it's right along 3951. It's right on kind of that way,
okay.
east of that.
Sorry. Go
I'm
ahead.
not an East Swift girl.
I was not sure, so I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no problem. So when that all came about, we actually had a area radius of service coverage for an hour and a half. So all of DeKalb County. DeKalb County is very long. It actually takes 2 hours to drive from one county end to the other,
Wow.
and we covered almost all of it.
Yeah. Goodness.
So a lot of fun driving on the country roads too. But to me, rural is in my heart, and I know the needs for families who live in the rural areas. They don't have access to a lot of services, or they have a lot of transportation barriers to a lot of services. And so I just felt that was so important to be able to expand our services to those areas. So then Dr. Dan Yoder called
Aha.
me up literally 13 days before our camp was going to start. One year, it was 2017,
Yep.
and said, hey, our therapeutic recreation faculty member left, and we have 7 interns out in the field, and they need to have a CTRS to supervise them. Could you do that? And of course, you can never say no to Dr. Yoder.
Yeah.
I love him. And I said, of course I will do that for you, Dr. Yoder. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And he goes, oh, it's all online. You don't even have to do any visits. You can call everybody on their midterms and all of that. And I said, oh, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
So that was my first toe in the door
Right.
of working with Western as a faculty. And I did that summer, fall, spring.
Okay.
And by springtime, they had approval to offer a Unit B, a therapeutic recreation professor position, instructor position. And they asked if I wanted to apply for it. And I said, if I'm ever going to teach, it is going to be at Western in my department. So, of course, I'm going to go for it. So,
Yeah.
again, took that leap of faith and took it. And I was hired. So, I started fall of 2018. And we had a very interesting discussion in our family unit because at that time, Sam was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not wanting to move you because he's in band and he's got his buddies. And so one stipulation of my contract was for me to be able to set my classes where I could travel back and forth daily 2 or 3 times a week on Amtrak,
Hmm.
do my classes, and then come home at night and to be able to do that. And so I did that for a year and a half.
Wow.
Until Sam
Goodness.
graduated
Yeah.
early. He graduated early December of 2019, and then we moved in 2020.
Gosh.
So, and now we're here, and I love not traveling.
I remember taking that train to Chicago several times from Macomb, and there's
Mhm.
something cool and unique about it every now and then. Um,
Yes, yes.
but
I have some, oh Lordy, some interesting stories about people on that train, but I got to be very good friends with the conductors because there's, 4 main ones and they knew my schedule and I let them know, hey, this is when, Western's going to be on a break. So it's going to be flooded and we're going to have crazy students everywhere. And
yeah,
so I figured it out. Everybody did great at leaving me alone. I'd get in, and actually, I loved it because I could sit down and plug in and get my work done and not be interrupted. Because at home, I've got dogs and kids and a husband and loud house, and it's hard to focus. So that actually was the hardest transition for me is learning how to work in my house again
yeah.
once we moved because I didn't have that transition time. So
Well, and so that makes me think of another question, because you moved there, and shortly after that, everything kind of shut down for COVID, right?
yeah,
And
11 days after we moved.
uh, goodness, what once everything, and I don't know what Western did specifically, but in general, everybody kind of had a similar game plan. Um,
Hmm.
and so I came to where I am now at Arkansas Tech in August of
Hmm.
2020. So moved into that situation, so to speak, and so it gets to me like, what are some challenges that you did not expect, or some things you had to overcome that maybe you weren't expecting, right? Like,
Hmm.
like something you said that, and I thought of it as like, I didn't. So we have our kids homeschooled for this academic year, and they're going to go back into public schools in August. But we just, with the what we were seeing is they would be there for a week and then be quarantined for 2 weeks back and forth, and
Oh,
we just didn't
yeah.
want we didn't want that the hassle, and we know everybody's trying their best, so we weren't like judgmental, but we were like, we're gonna keep
Hmm.
them home. So we really went. It was a and it still is. It's a big struggle to be at home and still do my work. Right?
Hmm.
I still got 40 to 50 hours of work per week, but they have needs throughout the school day too. And so that's
Hmm.
something I've really struggled with. But anyway, I didn't know if you had some stuff like that that you kind of had to overcome some issues or whatever it may be.
Oh, absolutely. So we moved February 29th. And the stay-at-home order for Illinois started March 13th. And so our daughter, who's not like me, she's quite an introvert, started a new school and she had 11 days to get to know new friends. And then we all went on virtual. And it was a huge challenge. I heard this kind of coming down the pipe, and we were on the schedule to get fiber optic for our Wi-Fi because we moved to an old homestead property, 11 and a half acres. It has a beautiful barn and a beautiful building, but it had electricity and well and septic, but no Wi-Fi, no nothing. Pretty crappy house.
Mm.
So I called them and I said, I need to have Wi-Fi. If this is all going to happen, I'm going to have to go online and I can't teach on my hotspot on my phone.
Right.
This is a big problem. And I found out, number one, how rural we live, because we were on a 2.5 month waiting list for fiber optic. But number two, how rural we are. My neighbor, I had told my neighbor that, and she goes, "Oh, well, my stepson works for the fiber optic telephone company. I'm going to have him bump you off the list because this is what you need to do." We were the last in-home installment before the order came down.
Oh
And I'm
my.
just like, whew.
Right.
But the rule, so we taught how it happened at Western was they extended, everybody was on their spring break when this all kind of happened. And so they extended their spring break for another week. But we were working with students who had left all their books in their dorm room. They had no access to their computers. They were living in a home that maybe didn't have Wi-Fi. And so I am literally Googling where the closest McDonald's is because McDonald's made the announcement they were going to extend their Wi-Fi into their parking lot so people could go to school. And two of my seniors that spring semester graduated and gave me their final presentations sitting in their car in the McDonald's parking lot. To me, that's dedication, you
Yeah.
know? But oh wow, was that weird. It
Right.
was everybody was just every day it seemed like we had a challenge with something. So, and then I had my daughter trying to do kind of virtual learning because she goes to a very small school, 147 kids in their entire school from preschool to 8th grade. And a lot of her classmates, they did not have technology at home or Wi-Fi at home. And so that was an issue. And so literally we were getting emails from this wonderful principal saying, if you guys have a spare computer, could somebody borrow it because they don't have it? Is
Yeah.
this possible? And churches were extending their Wi-Fi so then they could, be able to do that in their parking lots and things like that. But so that was tough. And then I had to figure out, literally, like you, within 10 days, how to switch everything to virtual, right? Um, and then, of course, the concerns about the students' mental health because it just was in the toilet. Everybody was anxious or depressed, and it was rough for them. So that was really hard. That was a really hard semester. But we figured it out over the summer
Sure.
of what we wanted to do, and I took a lot of Zoom classes. So actually, when everything kind of came down in the stay-at-home order, that was March 13th, and we had our PDC planned for April 16th. And so we had 1 month to figure out how to do Zoom, how to get our presenters, how to do all of this. And we still did it and did a really pretty good job with it, I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
then. But, you know, and then I was ready for fall. And for fall, they offered if we could do a hybrid or if we wanted to do just online or just Zoom, and it
Yeah.
really depended on the numbers of our classes. And so my classes, thankfully, except for one, they were small enough I could still do face to face, but we split them. So I was teaching half of the class on Monday while the other half attended Zoom. And then we flip flopped on Wednesday. Well, the Zoom students were in class, and the class that was in on Monday, they were Zooming in.
Okay.
And so it worked pretty well. My largest class, I ended up teaching 25 students in the ballroom of the union.
Goodness. Yeah, just
So
finding
I had to use my
space, right?
playground voice. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had totally like had to yell and oh my gosh, it was a lot of lemon honey tea that semester after that class. But but luckily Amy's school was so small, they had the option to either go all virtual or in person. And you had to make that decision for a whole quarter.
Okay.
And then you can change your mind, but you couldn't go back and forth. You can go back and forth. We're like Macomb schools, they were doing like Monday, Wednesday, A and B,
Okay.
classes because they had too many kids. And I really checked into things and I really, I do my research and I really looked into things. And in Hancock County, our numbers were incredibly low. And so we decided for our daughter's socialization, she needed to see her friends.
Yeah.
And so we decided she was going to go face to face. And this beautiful little school has gone in person this entire year, except for 2 days, and that was because of weather. I mean, it's
It's
been
incredible.
a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cases here have been, I think we've had three, and none of them have been kids
Yeah.
in her school. So, um, so if we looked at it, I'm really the super spreader of our germ pod because I go to Western and I work with the super spreaders, and I literally was going from Currens to the Union to back. And so I made sure that I would change my shoes every day and I'd wash my hands with sanitizer before I come in. And when I come home, I immediately take a shower and,
Yeah.
just making sure I was keeping my family safe.
Sure.
So Sam started, he graduated virtually in May. Um, and of course, you know me, we threw a party for him. Had a Zoom graduation party and got, it was for what Zoom lacks. It really has helped everybody still keep connected. Like his grandparents who live in Washington State would have never been able to come and see him graduate. And so that was really cool for them to
Yeah.
be part of that. And but he started his first semester. This is his first year at a community college in Macomb at Spoon River.
Hmm.
And part of it was hybrid and part of it was in person. But now this semester it's all in person. And he's handled it really well.
Good.
So when you kind of come up with like, how are we all going to handle this? You just kind of take it step by step. And then when you look back at it, you're like, wow, we can actually do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're okay.
So you've been there for a little bit, and you've gone through a pandemic, and now and I think everybody's comfortable saying that we're headed in the right direction. We're emerging, so to speak. Not
Mhm.
necessarily right out of the woods, but what? So beyond the pandemic, if we not that we can erase it, but if we look beyond it, what are some of the things that you love about what you do in your current job?
Well, one of the reasons of why I decided to teach was because I love learning and I love seeing that aha moment, that light bulb moment with my students when they get it and they're learning too and they're discovering how exciting this is.
Yeah.
Because to me, I, my field is just always fascinating me. It just is, oh my gosh, look at what we're doing here. And oh my gosh, look at what we're doing here, because whatever you decide you're going to do, it's the coolest field, I think, because you get to kind of decide and design your own life experience, right? So also, one of the reasons of why I decided to start teaching was to make sure that my field survived, because at the time and currently, there are not a lot of us that are teaching.
Right.
And I think it's very important that we are getting the right information to our students so then when they become young professionals, they can jump in feet first and take those challenges and be confident in those decisions and not go, oh my gosh, I wasn't ever taught that. Or, oh, I was never made to do fieldwork experience and I can't get a job, that kind of stuff. So I love that. I've been told, because we are one of the few universities that are still having our students do fieldwork experience, albeit virtual, that the second my students graduate, they're going to get snatched up because, um, for one thing, especially with our population, virtual programming has opened up the field of possibilities for people with disabilities,
Yeah.
because it totally cuts out the barriers of transportation, accessibility, social anxiety. We have had a ginormous increase in percentage of participation because people are participating in the safety and comfort of their home. Will we ever see them face to face? Maybe,
Yeah.
but we never saw them before because we were having them face to face. And so if you kind of look at it that way, but it really has opened the door, especially for people with disabilities, to be able to participate. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of the job too,
Yeah.
is to make that happen.
Well, I want to. I got like two final questions. I guess you could say. Is the first one being,
Okay.
if you had your dream job, like if you weren't doing what you're doing now, and I know you love your job, and I know you love your field and all that, but if somebody had to pick you out and say you can't do that anymore, but guess what, you get to pick your dream job, or something along those lines. Money, not necessarily an object or whatnot. What would be your dream job?
Not doing what I'm doing now. This is my dream
Sure.
job.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what would be your next
Right.
dream job?
There's two, and everybody knows when I retire, this is what I'm going to do if I ever retire, because I love this. If I ever retire, or if I'm told I can never do this again, I want to open up old dogs, like an old dog home,
Yeah.
like a sanctuary, because we have the land. It's beautiful. It's quiet here, and we could totally do it. And I love old dogs. We have a visitor actually this weekend. He just does not fare well in a boarding facility. He's 11. And I just said, you know what? He just needs to come to the Eggleston Country Spa.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I would totally love to do that. And then I know it is so weird, but I love grocery shopping. I love comparing prices
I
and
did
I
not
love
expect that.
looking.
Okay.
I know. I
Wow.
know. I do. I love cooking. I'm a very, very good cook. I hate baking, but I'm a very, very good cook. So when I go to the grocery store, I will look at all the cool brands and I'll compare, and I'm very much a comparing pricing person. I love coupons and all that fun stuff. So I would totally be somebody's personal shopper, not clothes. I'm not a clothes person.
Yeah.
I would totally do that.
Yeah.
I know it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but that's just what I love doing.
Now,
That's happy to me.
I can kind of get on that train because during this pandemic stuff, a lot of people are doing a click list, or whatever it may be for your grocery store, and I like walking around, and I like not that I know a whole lot about it, but I'm like, I like looking at this. This is the cheese I'm going to buy. Which bag of cheese? Like, this looks like it's a little bit better bag of cheese. I don't know, right? But there's
Mhm.
something to that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally. Totally.
so. And I think the other part that I'm a big, I like to look at sales, like what's on sale, what's
Mm-hmm.
on clearance, and so maybe that'll change. If I find something on clearance, it's something different. I'm like, I'll try that. Looks like we're having something dinner for tonight, something different for dinner. So,
Yes,
um,
that's exactly what I do. That's exactly what I do.
but with your old dog, thing too, and that's something that kind of hits home to me. Is we adopted an elderly, a geriatric bulldog not too long ago, knowing she didn't have long. This is a dog that came into a rescue that they estimated her to be 10 to 12 years at that point, and not in good health. So they're like, this ain't gonna last a whole lot longer. And we knew she belonged with us. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought when we picked this dog up, I was like, well, I'm gonna love her, but if she kicks over tomorrow, I should not be surprised.
Right.
And we lost her maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago at this point. And I'm telling you what, in that time period, about a year, she wiggled her way into so many hearts, and became such a part of the family that it really was a loss for us.
Mm-hmm.
And old dogs. She wanted to be by you the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And she farted and she stunk. I mean, it was just a bad situation, but we,
Yep.
we loved her. And so when you said that, I was like, you know what, I think I may have to change my dream job as well. Cause I think old dogs are awesome. So anyway, moving on to the final question. It's the big question is, if a future professional, a student, or somebody's watching this, and specifically within a therapeutic realm, is there, based on your experiences, what kind of tidbits of advice or golden nuggets of wisdom can you help somebody with or provide?
Oh gosh.
It's a big question.
Um, that is a big question. It's a great question. I would say, hopefully, if you have learned anything about me, I'm never hesitant for a challenge.
Right.
And I would say when a challenge comes up and you can't see the end of that staircase, you just got to have faith. You
Yeah.
just have to have faith and just take that first step, because if you don't, you don't know.
Yeah.
If you fail, you've tried it, and it was a pretty cool experience, with the Godfrey job. I don't look at that at all as a failure. I look at that as, oh my gosh, look at all this that I learned. And then that job led me to the Indiana job. So I would say, if you're ever given that challenge, and good supervisors will figure out if you can do this or not, and they'll challenge you to see if you're up for that challenge, take it.
Yeah.
I've heard so many students tell me, man, you just pushed me to do this field work and I didn't understand. And then when I put that on my resume, that's what led me to the first job, was because, when you're able to just get past that and do it. And don't be scared of jumping in something that you don't know everything about, because if you know everything about it, it's almost not exciting anymore. If you are jumping into something that you get to really explore still, that's the coolest part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and definitely, I know this is like the big trend, but this has always been with me, is self-care. You've got to take care of yourself or you're going to burn out and
Right.
you're not going to love your area anymore. And that's the sad part, because I know a lot of professionals who loved it too much. They lived it, breathed it, and then got burned out, and now they're not in it and the field misses them.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever, techniques for self-care that you can do to make sure that you're doing okay and you're still on top of your game even during all this stressful stuff, that's what you got to do. for
Yeah.
sure. Because then that's the name of the game is you have to take care of you. So then you're okay to take care of everybody else because that's what we do in this field, right? So,
And I think, and that's excellent because I think, especially during a pandemic, we're working from home and the boundaries between work and non-work are very
ugh,
blurred. And,
yes,
uh, you know,
yes.
I was talking to a friend just the other day. I said, you know what? Uh, because I'm on campus 2 times a week for the spring semester. And I said, I, I leave, I get done what I have to get done for the day and I leave and I don't do anything job related for the rest of the day.
Hmm.
I avoid, even sometimes it's almost like an addiction to check email. I avoid it. Um, and, I think that is paying, it's going to pay huge dividends. I tell my students that too, like make sure that you do what you have to do while you're at work. So bust your hind end while you're at work so that when
Hmm.
you leave, you can leave,
Yep.
and don't procrastinate so that when you leave, you're still having to get home and do more work. So
Hmm.
anyhow,
That's exactly it. I totally agree with you. It is very hard. If I didn't have this beautiful virtual background, literally my closet is right there. And so I'm doing this, in my house, but I see the flexibility that this whole pandemic has created as a very good thing because that
mhm,
has allowed me to be home more with my family and to go pick up my daughter off the bus and to be able to do some things. But everybody knows it's in my syllabus. 6 o'clock hits, I don't answer anything. I'm done. I might answer it at 4 or 5 in the morning when I'm back up.
right, yeah,
But to me, that's my time.
yeah.
That's my time with my family, and I really protect that. You have to protect that. So I'm in 110% agreement with you.
Well, and we can talk about that for probably a couple hours altogether. But I think it's excellent advice. Make sure you take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And I think that's also on point for a therapeutic rec person as well, right?
Hmm.
So in true
Right.
fashion, you have lived up to your profession. Um, well,
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of us that don't. We
yeah,
ignore our needs for others, and that's going down a very bad road.
yeah,
So
I absolutely agree. Well, Julie, thank you so much. I know I told you this would last 30 minutes, and we're like at an hour. So I apologize for that, but I don't apologize for all the awesomeness that we've got to chat about, and I think a lot of people get stuff out of it. So
I
um,
hope so.
yeah. Well, think again. Thank you so much, and I know we'll talk more uh, on the phone, email, whatever. But if you ever anything, let me know.
I will. Thank you again for the opportunity. This has been so great.
Absolutely. Have a great week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.